one of the best perks of being the audiophiliac is I get to meet really interesting people and hang out with them. And few, very few, are more interesting than J.J. French, guitarist for Twisted Sister. Yeah, a bona fide rock star. And most definitely an audiophile. He is definitely one of us. But today, I met with JJ a couple of months ago. He invited me back because he wanted to show off, that's the right word, show off his extensive and very tasty record collection. So we did that, and we also talked shop. And then at the end of this little foray, we looked at his hi-fi system again. Now, we did this last time, but this time there's a twist. We're going to talk about the collection of gear that he listens to the most. And I got to tell you, you will be very surprised as to what that is. So stick around to the end of today's show. Enough preamble. This is me talking with J.J. French.
I have a huge record collection. We're going to talk about the music today, which is important because this is really what this is about. But one day I was sitting in the office going, I wonder how many of the shows I saw were turned into live albums. And it turns out a lot of shows I saw. So first one, I was 10. My parents took me to Weaver's at Carnegie Hall. So this was the first concert I went to that was made into a live album.
It's an amazing sounding record.
It's a great sounding record.
Incredible.
Yeah. The Grateful Dead. Now, I have many Grateful Dead live recordings. In fact, I'm famous for saying that nothing is certain except death and taxes, and that every Grateful Dead show ever played is going to be turned into a live record. And it's famous. Famously, I have been quoted in other documentaries discussing the fact that I saw Pigpen 27 times. I'm also famous for saying that Jerry Garcia gave me a tab of acid at one of those Fillmore shows, which is true. Front row seat, the Fillmore. I had a tab of acid, I dropped it on the floor. Only in the Fillmore can you have the ushers make everybody get up and look for this tab of acid. And they're all scrounging around the floor before the Dead came out, and they couldn't find it. And the Dead walked out, and Garcia walked out, and the usher walked up to Jerry and went like, ba, 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 ba. Jerry reached in his pocket, handed him a tab. So yes, officially. Wow. However, I also say this about the Dead, that I saw them 27 times, 26 times on acid. Greatest band I ever saw. 27th time I saw them straight. Worst band I ever saw. And never went back to see the Dead again. I saw the Dead more times than any other band except for Twisted Sister. And I did see them at a period of time that is considered their classic. So when people say I saw the Dead 500, 600, 800 times, whatever, did you see them when I saw them, which is between 68 and 72? Probably not. And they were an incredible band. And their live impact made an impact on me because I always wanted to be able to do that, create that kind of a loyalty.
Right.
From Twisted Sister's standpoint.
Yeah.
And I learned that from watching the Dead. So give them all the kudos. Here we go, John Mayall's Turning Point.
Yes. I was at that show.
Acoustic.
One of those shows,
Didn't know what to expect. A huge Mayall fan. I remember they came out and said, it's going to be a little strange tonight. He's going to do acoustic. We all thought, what is that? Like, how's that going to work? It was incredible. Absolutely one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. And it was turned into a live album.
Wait, before you take that away, I want to tell you,
yes.
I might have been at the same show as you, but that is, for me, the best sounding recording ever done at the Fillmore. You really hear the hall, on that more than any other that I know of.
It's a great sounding recording. It was a great night, great show. Hendrix. Now, I'd seen Jimmy at Madison Square Garden the year before. It was awful. Back in the day when the Garden's stage was in the middle of the arena, and the PA system was the public address system for the hockey and basketball games on the roof, which I asked Jack Bruce once years later, what was it like when Cream played there? Could you hear yourself? He said, there's no way. The PA system was above my head. We had no idea what was going on stage. The stage would turn, the amplifiers sliced the stage in half. As it turned, if you weren't in front of the amps, you couldn't hear anything. So consequently, you would walk around the arena. People who knew me would see me walking around the top, the top aisle, keeping in front of the stage. So Hendrix played, and it was a.
This is the Fillmore.
No, this was at the Garden, and it was a disaster. And he walked off stage after 8 songs. He kept saying to people, "Stop with the flash bulbs." I'd never seen that many flash bulbs in my life. He was on acid, Eddie Kramer's producer corroborated the story with me. This is not a fantasy. This is true. Jimmy walked off, and there was a riot at the Garden. It was a riot. I mean, people throwing chairs. And anyway, a year and a half later, he did Band of Gypsies. So I went to Band of Gypsies, and I had 10th row center for Band of Gypsies. And again, 4 shows, 4 performances. I can tell you the one that I saw was the only one in which he did an encore. He came back out, and he did, I think, Foxy Lady, Purple Haze, and ended with Wild Thing. And by the way, I will say, 10th row, I stood up the whole time, maybe 30 feet away, dead center, looking at Jimmy going, pay attention to what you're watching. You're watching the greatest guitar player in the world tonight. And just pay attention to what you are watching. So as stoned as I was, I will never forget that night. It was absolutely transcendent. So here's a document of that night. Now, Stones, 3 nights. Thanksgiving, 1969. They did 3 shows in 2 days, including a matinee. 2 p.m. Can you imagine the Rolling Stones doing a matinee? It was kind of funny, actually. They did a 2 o'clock matinee. I was at all 3 shows. There was a riot during the matinee show. Now, you remember, this is 1969, so when they play Street Fighting Man, there's blood in the streets. There's rioting in the United States, around the world. You know, this is the world in flames because of the anti-war movement.
Yeah, I was at one of those shows.
Okay, so do you remember how crazy? It was really
it was awesome.
It was
I couldn't
awesome.
go to sleep that night.
And this is an incredible testament to when the Stones were actually great as opposed to what they are now. You know, the Stones. Nah, the Stones are pretty bad. I mean, the Stones fans are so old they don't clap because they're afraid the lights will go on in the arena. You know, that's really the case. But back then, with Mick Taylor on guitar, and they came back in '72 to the Exile tour. Did you see the Exile tour?
Is that the one with the flower? I saw that.
No, the Exile tour was the white light with the.
No, I didn't see that.
It was. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. In fact, there's a movie, Ladies and Gentlemen, the Rolling Stones, that was filmed, documentary, was filmed in a week later in Dallas. That show in Dallas, if you watch that show, you'll see basically what I saw in '72. As great as they were in '69, they were better in '72 because they didn't have Bobby Keys, they didn't have the brass section. They, remember by '72, by the time Exile came out, they were doing Rip This Joint. They were doing some really insane, crazy stuff.
And Sticky Fingers.
And, yes, they had gone through the Sticky Fingers. Well, they'd gone through their golden age period, beginning with Beggar's Banquet and really going through Exile, which I consider the 5 golden eras for the Stones. They were phenomenal. So that was a great show. Rock of Ages, 71. Again, a huge band fan. I consider them one of the greatest bands ever to be. The Canadian, I'd like to say they're American, but they're Canadian. I mean, they're them and the Beach Boys are like what we have in North America as the greatest bands we've ever produced. You ever think about that? By the way, I always think about the greatest bands, and I always think, well, Beatles, Stones, Who's That, Floyd, Queen. I go, well, they're all British. They're not American. That's interesting. Why is it in England? So I started thinking, is there an American equivalent in bands? And I couldn't come up with it, but I came up with our own thing, which is individuals. It's Dylan. It's Johnny Cash, it's James Brown, it's Aretha Franklin, it's Bruce Springsteen, it's individuals. Like we somehow appreciate the individuals, not necessarily the groups. Where in England, if you try to come up with the equivalent of individuals, you may have Bowie, you may have Rod Stewart, you may have Elton John, but they can't hold a candle to Dylan and Hendrix and Johnny Cash and James Brown and all the other incredible individuals that we have in America. So it's kind of a philosophical, sociological difference between how Britain feels about it. I mean, even in America.
But you didn't mention the Dead in this list.
Well, so if you try to name great American bands that could be the equivalent of the Beatles, Stones, Who's That, Floyd, and Queen, you will come up with the Beach Boys, I believe. Right. You may come up with the Grateful Dead. You may, if you're a Deadhead. Right. But some people will say the Byrds, but they don't have the longevity. No. Some people say the Doors, they don't have the longevity. But they're not. I'm not saying these groups have no value. They're enormously impactful, but can they hold a candle?
No, it's fair.
Compared to the Mount Rushmore of British artists, they really can't. There are some exceptions, but for the most part, America produces great individuals. Like there's no British equivalent of Dylan, I'm sorry. There's no British equivalent of Aretha. There's no British equivalent of James Brown, I'm sorry. Chuck Berry, I mean, it just doesn't exist. Not to mention all the ridiculous blues artists that we have that influenced those artists that made them what they are. So it really is like a cultural difference. And a lot of people are going to say, hey man, you forgot to mention blah, 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 blah. And I'll go, I really don't care. Because I'm sorry, but you can't give me an equivalent. It ain't going to happen. No matter how hard you try, it ain't going to happen. And by the way, I love all these artists, so who cares?
Right.
But in general,
the pecking order doesn't matter.
In general, that's how I feel about it. Now this is interesting. Huge Elvis fan. Elvis never played New York except for this one show. And I went because I was a huge Elvis fan. And I remember before I went that day playing all the greatest hits, thinking, man, Elvis, Elvis, Elvis. Plus I had seen the 68 comeback special, which was incredible, absolutely incredible. But this was 4 years prior. I expected to see that. What I saw was fat, bloated, Thanksgiving Day parade, tubby Elvis. And the thing was that at the Garden, you have to remember, this is 72. Besides the fact that he had a comedian open for him, which you don't necessarily think of at the Garden, he also had a guy shilling merch from the stage, which you also back in those days don't expect. You know,
right.
Don't forget, get your t-shirts here. I mean, it was so campy, so kitschy, so stupid, so Vegas-y. And then Elvis came out, and my memory was that he basically just did all these pop songs, and then he did all of his hits in a 7-minute medley, right?
Yeah.
So I see this album in a thrift shop about 10 years ago, and I go, I was there. And I look in the back, and I was 100% right. It's all these dopey pop songs, and his big hits were all basically done in a 7-minute medley. Okay, so my memory of that was correct. It wasn't the rock and roll Elvis that I wanted to see.
Sorry.
Obviously, Twisted Sister, a lot of live albums.
And why is it called Sister, by the way? What's the sister part?
Well, it was because we were an androgynous band, and we were trying to come up with a name for the band. And our drummer was Mel Anderson, and he's the guy that put the band together. And he named it Silver Star, and I thought it was the worst name ever. And at a band rehearsal in Hohokus, New Jersey, I complained that the name sucked. And the singer, Michael, went out to a bar one evening and got drunk, which he did a lot. And he called the house, and he said, I answered the phone. He goes, I got a great name. What is it? Twisted Sister. I said, remember, this was the period of Bowie, Lou Reed, glam, sweet, all that. And I said, Michael, that's an incredible name. And I went downstairs. I said, Michael came up with a great name, Twisted Sister, and everyone liked it. He came back from the bar. I said, Michael, that was an amazing name. He goes, what name? I said, the name that you gave me on the phone. And I don't remember. It's Twisted Sister. Oh. Well, when our documentary was filmed, We Are Twisted Effin' Sister, we tried to get Michael to be in the doc, but unfortunately, he suffered brain damage from getting hit by a car, and he couldn't remember anything. So anyway, but Twisted Live here.
Now we know. Okay.
Twisted Live here. Twisted Live at Donington.
So you were live at all those
Twisted
shows.
Live at the Marquee.
You were there.
Twisted Live at Hammersmith. Various other live records. Plus there's more. There's Twisted Live at the Astoria. Twisted Live at Wacken, which is a German festival. There's a lot of Twisted Live albums that we've recorded. So there's your compendium of live performances that I either witnessed or was involved with. That covers that selection. I am a huge Beatle fan, and I wrote a Beatle column for Goldmine for 7 years. I started it when I was 64, and the byline was called Now We're 64.
Okay, that's great.
And we're going to go take a quick look at some of the Beatle albums I have, so follow me.
Okay.
This is the Beatle shelf here.
Yeah.
Which is imports.
These are all the redone ones.
Well, no. There's plenty of original. There's plenty of British imports in this mix too. It's just they happen to have them all like, stacked up in this flow. There's Beatles, reel-to-reel tapes.
Wow.
Okay, bought at Sam Goody's. Back in the day, other reel-to-reels also purchased. So these are all my collectible kind of stuff, but intermixed with this are just there's chronological order, then there's British EPs, and every time I'm in a record store, if I find old Beatle albums,
Oh, you have the Magical Mystery Tour EP? Of course you do.
Oh, of course I do. Yeah.
Is it really that much better?
The original EP? Well, it wasn't meant to be. It wasn't meant to be an album.
I know. That's the UK.
I mean, but understand. We did not know that. We're just dumb Americans, right? So we get an album. It came out Christmas week of '67. I was working at a head shop at the time on Broadway at 90th Street, which is now a real weed store. I mean, talk about the irony of life. We were selling it under the counter, and now, hey, can I have like some weed? Yeah, sure, no problem. Come on, it's totally legal. So yes, I have that, and this is the reissue. But I have the original. I have the original British EP. Plus, I have original Sgt. Pepper. Oh, there's how many Sgt. Peppers do we have? We have one. We have
a picture
two.
disc? Yeah, okay.
We have an original Stereos from '67. Somewhere in here, I have my British Sgt. Pepper from '67, which is actually kind of a cool one because here's another version of it. Oh, here's a Butcher. By the way, I have two original Butcher covers. So that's a repro, but I have two. I have two original Butchers. By the way, that I boiled the front off.
Oh, wow!
So there's three Butchers.
Yeah.
But I have two original Butchers. Here we go. Here's imports. So there's German, original EMI Parlophone, Rubber Soul. And original, this is the original version. This is an original. Here we go. With the famous, you know about the story about this, right? The famous red and white. It's supposed to be McCartney's blood from being killed in the car crash. That's like part of the nonsense that came with that.
I never said that.
So this is an original '67 Parlophone.
Wow, that's perfect.
That my parents got for me back when they went to England. When EMI started to release the CDs, the Beatles CDs, which came out in '67. Which is the only reason why the Beatles made money was because they had to renegotiate their deal. They came out with a series of these box sets, okay, commemorating the CD releases, okay.
But those are LPs or CDs?
These are CDs that came in these beautiful boxes, right? These are special. Okay, so we go from the Beatles, individual, to the Stones section.
Okay.
There's all Stones here, right? And then we go from the Stones to the Kinks, all here. So this is like the basic British food group, and to the Who. So that's what's on this level.
Okay.
Right. So you can kind of tell who I love. You know.
And then you drop down to the next level.
We got Hendrix, huge Hendrix section here.
Okay.
Right. There's a Bowie section over here. There's some more Beatle books and stuff like this. But there's a big Bowie section. There's a big Hendrix section. This is all Twisted Sister here. There's an Oasis section. I happen to really like Oasis. I don't care if you people think I'm crazy or not. I happen to like them, and I really don't give a damn if you think I'm crazy or not. But I love them. Sinatra, I have a huge Sinatra collection as well. There's a big Pink Floyd section here. Okay, I consider Piper at the Gates of Dawn to be the greatest psychedelic album ever made. It kind of makes Sgt. Pepper sound like music from Big Pink, if you really want to compare the two. And for those people who don't understand the historical significance of Piper at the Gates of Dawn, it was recorded exactly the same time as Sgt. Pepper was recorded in Studio B. And Norman Smith, the engineer for Sgt. Pepper, quit in the middle of a session to become Floyd's producer. Little tidbit. Okay. I don't know if we showed this the last time, but if we didn't, again, this transistor radio from 1972, Sloyd State. That's why it was $1.99.
It's your first hi-fi.
This was the second. This was the second transistor radio I owned. Still works. Sloyd State. Okay, we gotta love it.
Yeah, your LS358's up there.
Yeah. That one has to get repaired. Here's my Disco Sucks fretboard, which was a big mistake. I kind of destroyed a 1953 Gibson Gold Top and had Disco Sucks put on the neck. Oh God, it was messed up. Here's a kind of cool photo. 1976, me, Dee, and Eddie Ojeda. The first time we ever took a photo together. This is 50 years ago.
Okay.
All right. And of course, I think we talked about this last time, but this was the Stones and Drag.
Yeah, we did this.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So there's, okay, so that takes you through this kind of section here.
That's
right?
That's quite a selection.
Pretty cool selection of stuff.
Very.
Right? We made a joke that I listened to a Bose Mini speaker when I'm in Mexico for like 2 months, but I do. And I'll download or I'll listen to Qobuz or Tidal. And here, this is my computer system. Now, I want to explain this.
Yes.
The big system here, this is really expensive, right? But I don't listen to this primarily. I listen to this 90% of the day.
Really? What are those speakers?
I listen to these. I wrote it down, so I'll tell you exactly what they are. These are Vanatoo self-powered speakers.
They're nice speakers.
Right? They're the transparent one, Encore Plus. They're $699. Okay. I have a REL sub, TX5X.
Okay.
Right? T5X down below. So you figure these are $699. The sub is $699. Okay. The computer, I'm getting Tidal coming in, and Qobuz going through an Audioquest Dragomfly,
There you go.
which is $329. Nothing fancy.
Yeah. So you're not a snob.
Nothing fancy, and this is what I listen to 90% of the time. This is the system, $2,000, and it sounds awesome. People listen to it, they go, wow, that sounds incredible. Well, it's because it was curated correctly. It sounds great. You put Tidal or Qobuz through this, sounds beautiful. So this is the system I listen to most of the day. And early in the morning or late at night, when I get a chance to listen, I'll listen to this system. But it's kind of like owning a Kia and a Maserati. Most of the day you drive the Kia, and on Sunday you drive the Maserati. So on Sunday I take this out.
You know what? I'm always driving the Maserati.
Yeah.
But, that's okay.
And there's
it's all about the music, man.
There's a Sonos system in the house, too, because, as my wife says, by the time it takes you to put a James Taylor record out, I'm three albums into the James Taylor. Like, I don't have time for this nonsense. It's like, I just go this, bing, 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 music. You take the record, you watch the record, you turn this on, and whatever. So I love this.
But how many pairs of shoes does she have?
Oh, well. My wife's shoes have sex at night because there's more the next morning. I swear to God, we go to sleep, there's 10 pairs, and then there's 20 the next day. And I swear they F at night. That's what I think happens.
Okay.
So anyway, this is a great system. Sounds great.
And where? Affordable.
So
real
here you
world.
go. So here's 1903, right?
That's where it all begins.
It all begins here. This is kind of cute here.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like state of the art here.
Yeah, there's a progression there.
It's progression, yeah.
Wow. JJ, this was a trip.
Hey.
This was a trip. This was like LSD for me.
I have some tabs floating around, given to me by Jerry.
By Jerry, I want those.
Okay.
All right.
Anyway.
Till next time.
Thank you, man, as always.
Thank you.
It was a lot of fun.
This was a blast.
Thank you.
Bye.